Good afternoon, everybody. Sean here from the Trusted Business Community Association, and I'm joined by Thom Bennett, one of our premier partners here at the association, who's recently joined us. Now, Thom comes from a exclusive background of tailors, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about the generations of tailors that have come before him throughout his family. But Thom, nice to meet you, my friend. How are you today?
Yeah, nice to meet you too, Sean. I'm fine. I'm really well, thank you.
Good,
Yeah,
good. It's great that you're part of our association, and I know you've only recently joined us, but it's wonderful to have such a as a premier partner. We often find in the premier partner arenas, you've got so many different people that are supporting business in either website design or HR, but you're supporting business owners in their look, which is a phenomenal thing to offer from an association's point of view to have somebody of your stature in our community.
thanks. Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, obviously, the idea is to make people look great and whatever they do. So, especially for business leaders, you need to look sharp and dapper. When you're going to see clients or the bank manager or venture capitalists, you've got to, you've got to be there looking good and looking probably a bit different than, especially with my cut, a little bit different than most people.
Well, it's all about first impression, isn't it? I think, and that
Yeah, that's
part of
it.
that first impression is the look of somebody, and
Yeah.
turning up in a purely, I mean it in the purest of sense, a tailored suit is always going to make you look so much sharper because it's obviously it has been made to be your suit rather than just to fit the general population as such, which you would, I suppose, expect if you bought something off the peg in a shop like Next or something like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, with ready to wear and to be honest, with a lot of made to measure as well, as you say, it's got to fit, the average person and as many of the average person people as possible. So the armholes are cut a lot lower. The back's maybe a bit broader, or it's just it doesn't sit right. So when you're sitting down now, I mean, like I'm sitting here, I'm not slouching, but I'm sat in a chair and everything's sitting still on my neck and my shoulders. Whereas if you can tell a ready to wear suit as soon as someone sits down because it just does this, and it all bunches up and it comes up over their head, So no, there's a big importance. I mean, the big thing about bespoke is fit.
Yeah.
I mean, we say fit, form, and function, but the key is fit. And if you don't get the fit right, then the rest of it's just waste of time, really, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I must admit, I mean, I have not quite at your level, but as you know from our discussions in the past, I um, have a place where I've been in the bespoke marketplace, and I used to work for Next Retail Limited, as you know, and I was their made to measure coordinator. So, but the made to measure that they did is not the level where you're at. Yours is a much sort of moved on level from there because you're an ultra tailor, not just a tailor, are you? I mean, obviously Next were bought Hepworth's, and Hepworth's Men's was where the tailoring would be done, and we'd fill in the form and send it off, and hopefully the suit would come back and fit the person with a bit of
Yeah,
luck
no,
and a bit of
absolutely.
judgment. Um, but the difference I can remember every suit I've ever owned that's, as you say, sort of off the peg, as I would call it, has always risen just across the shoulder blades because my
Mm,
shoulders are quite straight. They're quite broad but quite straight.
yeah.
So I always get this little lip when I sit down, um, at the back of my neck here, just where it sort of rises up a bit.
Mm.
And looking at your suit today, it's absolutely sort of. It looks like it's sort of. Well, it's obviously made for you because you've made it, but it's sitting there absolutely on the shoulder line, and there's no ripple at all,
No,
which is the
yeah.
difference.
Well, the way it should be, I mean, a lot of that's the armhole as well, which really helps.
Okay.
That kind of keeps it planted. But yeah, I mean, if you've got square shoulders and the coat's cut for a different angle, then yeah, it's going to all sit very strangely. None of us are straight. When no one's symmetrical.
No.
I mean, I've got a dropped right hand shoulder more so than probably it should be because I've broken my collarbone twice,
Right.
which has put it in a weird position. And I can't get anything to fit me properly to look nice,
Yeah.
from ready to wear or even from made to measure. I mean, there's a big difference between all these different types of tailoring. I mean, ready to wear is, as you say, it's just a factory made garment, you know, I mean, I started off at Burton's originally, doing the same sort of thing in the made to measure department. And that's just cut from a block pattern. So you just take some measurements. You can't really adjust too much for shoulder angles and things like that.
Yeah.
And then you get sort of a bespoke level, which is most bespoke in this country and around the world is this kind of bespoke level where it's a lot of it's machine made with hand finishing. But then you get sort of what I do, which and a few other people in the country do, which is what we tend to term as ultra bespoke, where it's hand sewn, literally. You know, it's not just handmade; it's hand sewn, and the attention to detail is up another notch. You know, and we like to create more of an experience around what we do than just going to see a bespoke tailor. So you know, my level is sort of up at the top end of Savile Row. You know, that's even though I don't work on Savile Row, that's where I put myself. You know,
And
um,
part of that's obviously that rightly so that you place yourself there because as I sort of spoke when I spoke in the introduction to you about you to the people that are listening to this video, you've got generations that date back to early 1900s. Am I right there?
yeah, in 1905, my mum's uncle, my great uncle, was a guy called Per Gustav Anderson, Uncle Gustav for the family,
Right.
and he started Anderson and Shepherd's, which is one of the oldest Savile Row houses. Although they're not on the row anymore, they're on Burlington Street. Um, they moved from number 13, God knows how many years ago now. But yeah, they were one of the first, I think, the first five Savile Row houses, you know,
Right.
from a civilian point of view. Most of the Savile Row houses came from a military tailoring background, whereas my family came from just civilian work. Yeah, and then, you know, so then it was my cousin Teddy, who's actually my first cousin once removed. It's my mum's cousin, so I get the once removed bit. And then me, my mum was a physicist, so she's not involved. Although she's a dab hand on a sewing machine, I must say.
It
Uh,
obviously runs in the
but
family
yeah,
then, doesn't it? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You
And
know,
tell me about, I know there's a really interesting story that I think is worthwhile telling about those shears that you've got behind your head there, because they've cut some cloth for some very important people.
yeah. No, these were given to me when I was 16 when I started my apprenticeship by cousin Teddy, because he'd stopped by that point, and Anderson Shepherd had been sold to tiny Rolands and hedge funds and things, and so I was given these shears to go off and do things. But they've cut the suits. I mean, most notably for Fred Astaire, and if you watch him dancing in his tails, you know these shears cut those, but also the old Sultans of Brunei, Maharajas of India, the old King of Jordan, many other celebrities, you know, that frequented Anderson and Shepherd's. In the days when you had to be referred to a tailor, you couldn't just walk in off the street. You know, the windows were all blacked out. It was like Soho in a way, you
Right.
know, and you had to be invited in. And if you just walked in off the street, you were given a hard shoulder, you know. And so these are those shears, and I use these for cutting everything apart from all cloth, not cardboard. I've got another pair for paper. But these are, and I like to channel them, you know, channel the family sort of vibes through it, you know. So yeah, no, they're great. I love using them, and I've only really sharpened them once or twice because I don't want to lose the edge on it too much. But I've got a piece of slate that I just run along every now and again just to hone it, you know. But yeah, no, they're fantastic, and you know, I've always loved using them. I've never painted them or polished them or anything like that. They're just as they were.
As they were. And I suppose anyone utilising your services then would know that the although cut with your hand, but by those shears that you've got behind there, the suits that have come before their
Yeah,
particular suit would have been cutting Fred Astaire, the Sultans of
yeah,
Brunei, and other very senior figures that household
yeah,
names and people that we know through from yesteryear. So
yeah.
yeah, a fantastic storyline, and I must admit, I just wanted to get that in there so people
Yeah.
understood. People understood the sort of the level that you
Yeah,
bring, not just in your own skill set, but from the family and the generations that have come before you. Um, all the way back to the early 1900s as a Savile Row um, tailor. So yeah, no, it's fantastic. So whereabouts are you based now then, Tom? Tell everyone where you're
I'm in
based.
Bristol, northwest Bristol. So I kind of live in the nook of the M4 and the M5, which is nice for people to get to actually. But I always travel. I go and see clients. I mean, they're welcome to come here. I have a home workshop. But part of the ultra bespoke experience really is that I go and see them. They don't have to put themselves out. So I'll see them in their office or in their home or in their golf club, anywhere that's suitable for them. I'll travel around, and that's not just in the UK. So, I'll travel anywhere. If I go abroad, then I tend to try and combine a few clients. So I'll do a trunk show. But in the UK, for a price of a suit, I'll travel anywhere around the country. And it just makes more sense for people, and they don't have to take time out of their day to come and do a fitting. I can just come and fit in with them. It takes an hour to do a fitting. It takes a couple of hours to do a consultation and a measuring for the first consultation, and then after a Zoom consultation to start with, I only accept a small commissions a year, so it's good just to do that, and then I can sort of choose the clients, so to speak.
Well, it's also creating a bespoke demand within the
Yeah,
bespoke industry, isn't it?
yeah,
Like you not having sort of taking on loads and loads and loads of work. I mean, obviously, I suppose you have a waiting list for those
yeah,
that if after the year is filled, you'd then have a waiting list behind it. But by all accounts, were certainly, and by the sounds of the skill set that you've got and all that history that you've got. A suit worth waiting for.
yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, the
Um,
reason why I only take so many commissions is because I cut and make everything myself with my hands.
right.
I don't send anything out. Most tailors, even on Savile Row, send especially trousers out to a trouser maker. I don't. I do everything myself: trousers, waistcoats, and coats, capes, overcoats, a lot. So to be able to make and then fit in a reasonable length of time, that's why I only accept 25, 30 commissions a year.
Right,
Yeah,
brilliant. Well, that's thanks for explaining that. Great that it just goes to show that the personality and the personal service that you give to each client, but also the quality of the finish.
mm,
Because I mean, and that's let's be honest. I mean, you've gained through being a premier member here of the association. You've gained an accreditation for the excellence in level of the service standard that you provide, and of course that just speaks volumes, being that you are literally from start to finish, you're dealing with the client on a one-to-one basis, but you're also everything that you're making is made by you and you alone
yeah,
and not somebody else. Even down to the, like you say, the trousers, which
yeah,
often do get sent out. I'm aware of that.
mm,
It's something that they,
mm,
it's sometimes easier, I suppose, to send it out because it's less work for the tailor themselves. But you're
yeah,
happy to be, make sure that that suit from shoulder to the bottom of the trousers
yeah.
has got your signature on it.
Yeah, well, I have a certain way of making. I like everything to be really soft, especially my trouser waistbands, and so I'm a very traditional tailor. I make very much the way that things were made 100 years ago.
Right.
When my forebears first started owning shepherds. It's all hand sewn. It's all very light and very thin and very just nice to wear. Even though the jackets are structured in an English tailored style, they're still very light and very easy to wear, and the waistband's the same because I cut a higher waist, like it should be. And so there you don't want a really heavy waistband, and so I'm very, and there aren't many people who want to tailor in the way I tailor. They just want to run it through a machine. And I don't. I do a couple of things on machine. I put my pockets in coats and I sew my darts up with a machine. The rest of it's hand sewn. So
Fantastic, fantastic. So, if somebody's interested in finding out more about you, Tom, where would they find you? How do they get hold of you?
they can find me obviously through the trusted business community. I'm on the directory. I'm also on LinkedIn, Thom Bennett Bespoke. I spell Tom with a TH, easier to find. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. But Instagram's a good way to find me. LinkedIn obviously is a very good way to find me, and obviously in your directory is a really good way to find me as well. So I'm around.
Absolutely. And of course, on the directory, if somebody wanted to have a video call with you, they can do that instantaneously through our
Right.
directory, which is a
Yeah.
superb way of obviously getting their questions answered by
Yeah,
talking
exactly. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the main person straight away. So fantastic. Listen, Tom, it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure not only to interview you today and so we can tell the world a little bit more about you, but it's also an absolute privilege and an honour to have you as part of this association. It really is. And I look forward to your success over the coming years ahead. Through not just being part of this, but just I know through obviously getting the messages out there that if you want something ultra bespoke, then Tom Bennett is the man to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I mean,
Thanks
one
ever
thing
so. Oh,
sorry, one thing I just want to add is that
yeah,
you mentioned there's a waiting list, and there is. And so there is a reservation fee for that waiting list. But apart from that, I'm generally available. So but it's just people need to know that, I think,
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
because I am
absolutely.
quite, demand is there. So,
Yeah, no,
you know,
absolutely. Well, it's been brilliant to interview you.
that's
Thanks so
fantastic.
much. Thank you so much, Tom. And obviously, as I say, looking forward to seeing your success over the coming years ahead, my friend.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Thanks
Nice
ever
one,
so
Sean.
much.
That's brilliant.